really ask yourself, what is the end goal? What skill are we focusing on? Because with limited time, you've got to focus even more granularly on what you want to achieve.
Yeah, and and that in itself is interesting. When we're delivering the curriculum outdoors in schools, we actually create integrated lesson plans for the teachers before we go in. So depending on the topic the children are studying, we'll do the practical curriculum outdoors, and we integrate our lesson planning. So we'll, for example, the Great Fire of London. You know, is that a bushcraft topic? Well, no, it's a history topic. But actually, when you look at how they baked the bread in an oven fueled by wood, kindling, all of those things, where those young people gathered all of that fuel from, what are the elements? What's the fire triangle? What created the blaze to burn for so long and so ferociously? All of a sudden, you're looking at, all of your primary fire modules, your fire learning from a bushcraft environment, and to turn that into, a really good outdoor learning session for young people, not only to understand the science behind it, to integrate it with the history, and then to also cover all the fire safety with them. Your learning outcomes there are really, really easily identifiable. And to meet those outcomes, it needs to fit into the time slot with the practical quality that you desire. So, lots of people sort of question, how can we deliver, and why is the foundation for the curriculum outdoors bushcraft, wilderness living and survival based? It's because it's where we've evolved from. So yeah,
Yeah,
yeah, well,
nature being the original teacher of all things.
yes,
It's
absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean that's where we bring a level of relevance and experiential learning into education. It's when you are sitting next to a fire and you can physically feel the heat and those flames, and then you learn about a topic about like a Great Fire of London, and it's like, okay, imagine this magnified several times over. You can almost imagine yourself in that place. You can almost start to kind of imagine what it would have been like there. And that's a connection to the past there. And that's a connection to a physical reality of how fire works.
Yeah, and when a very in the early days when I first wrote a lesson plan for the Great Fire of London, we went into a local primary school, and we split the class in half, and half went to one end of the outdoors, and they actually physically built little models of shops, buildings, houses, um, from London, true to era, true to design, little wooden structures on cardboard boxes, and they decorated them and all of that. And then the whole class came together in between morning break and lunchtime, and we all made bread. We took in naturally leavened bread, and we made some quick bread, some peasant bread, and we cooked it on the fire. And then after lunch, we swapped them over. And the ones that had done the house building in the morning, the other half had done some fire study. We swapped them over. So just before the end of the day, we'd got a whole little model town of the centre of London, and we thatched all the roofs with hay, and we tied it all down with string so it was all safe. And then we got a tiny little, we asked one of the young children to get a spark onto a tiny, tiny little fragment of charcloth, and they put it in one end of this whole area of little buildings that they'd made, they decorated, they designed. And then this little child got down and ever so gently blew on it and blew it to flame. And then, of course, we moved them all back so they're all safe. And literally, we fanned the flames, and it burnt the whole lot down. And we recorded it. We recorded the angle of the flames, the wind, and the children were really upset. They were devastated. They weren't devastated because there was a fire. They were devastated because we'd burnt all of their work. They'd built this whole town, and and then they looked at us and they said, that's what the people in London must have felt like. That's what they must have felt during the fire. So you and I can only imagine the stories that they wrote and their appreciation and understanding of the Great Fire of London when they went back into class, because they can write the emotive side of it and then become almost sympathetic with all of that. You know, it's a very, very powerful thing.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, that I said that connection to the past. It's not something you can just read a book and kind of feel the same way. It's got to be in some ways experiential. Some of the best things I remember from school days were school trips, places like Roman forts and things where you had a pilum in your hand, a shield in your arm, and you were physically marching around and you experiencing how that felt.